Is Boise, Idaho still one of the best places to live in 2025, or are the pros going away? This is a video that you are not going to want to miss if you're thinking of moving to Boise, Idaho. Not only am I going to give you the honest truth of living here, but I will jump on the computer and go over some of the best areas to consider when moving to Boise, and I'm going to personally go over what I think are some of the best places to live in the Boise area. And you will get to see a home by one of my favorite builders as we go through the reality of Boise, Idaho. As a Boise local for 30 years and a realtor, I'm giving you my honest opinion of the pros and cons of Boise. We'll talk about the things that still make Boise an amazing place to live, but I will also go over the cons and changes you might run into in 2025, and stay for the end where I go over a big shift in Boise's market and something you really want to consider before moving to Boise. As someone who's lived here for almost 30 years and works in real estate, I've seen Boise evolve, so I'm here to give you a real world example and perspective on what it's like to live in Boise in 2025. Okay, now we're gonna start going through all of the different aspects of Boise, pros and cons. Right now, we're gonna go through winter, but right where I'm at right now on the Boise River, I actually proposed to my wife right there in the fall time. So fun little insight, fun walking through the Boise River, being able to see that. But the first one's gonna be winter. Before we go into winter, and then of course, all of these different series of pros and cons, just wanna let you guys know, this is a channel for moving to Boise, and I try and be truthful, honest, and actually provide you guys with valuable information, because Boise's not going to be for everyone. So I want to give you guys the most education and information possible and truly help you guys in your decision, whether that's moving here or it's not the right decision. With that, we'll get into winter. I'm walking along the Boise River right now. You guys are probably gonna see people walking by me. It's a beautiful day. It's the start of spring in Boise, so we're starting to get 60-degree weather, which we'll of course talk about throughout this video, some of these pros and cons. But for this section, I'm gonna talk about winter because it's, I'd say, a worry that a lot of you guys have who are moving here. And so to start it off, the biggest thing with winter are going to be the inversions. That's going to be the biggest con. We also have the snow to talk about, the driving to talk about, some of the issues you can run into there. What's it like living here and living in a house, managing a home with winter if you guys aren't used to it. The biggest one being inversions. But first I'll talk about the snow. So Boise does not get a ton of snow. I'd say it's an overblown con of living in the Boise area, something that people think they need to worry about, but they actually don't. We get probably, I'd say, honestly, 3 days a year on average where you actually have multiple inches of snow. You know, you might have a school day, you actually have to worry about driving to and from work or the grocery store, whatever it may be. And so 3 days a year is not really a big problem. It's not hard to stay home, not really worry about it. Other than that, we get about 10 days a year, I'd say, where there's actually some snow. So kind of an overblown issue. And part of that is the driving. People think I need a four-wheel drive vehicle. It's gonna be hard to drive. It's gonna be scary, but that's actually not the case. And so want to ease people on that. I'd say the worst part of winters in Boise is the inversion aspect. And part of those inversions are that it's cloudy. Obviously it's really sunny today, but in the winter time, it gets really cloudy. It's dreary. For those of you who are in Seattle, you guys are super used to it. You know what it's like living in that darker climate. It gets depressing. And in the winter here, we definitely get that. I'd say on average, we get about 3 or 4 of them every year. This year in 2024, 2025 was a particularly bad year. We had about, I think it was 58 days or something straight of an inversion to where it's gloomy, it's cloudy, it's dark, and it's not fun. For most people, it does get depressing, other than you vampires out there coming from Seattle. So I'd say that's one of the biggest worries as far as winter goes in Boise. And another aspect of that is it gets dark here pretty soon. So it's usually dark 4:30, 5 p.m. For at least a month. So you get really short days, and then you throw on top of that the inversions and everything else. Those are gonna be your main things to worry about with winter in the Boise area. And right now I'm walking on the green belt here in Eagle. As I mentioned, I proposed to my wife out there, and we're gonna jump back and forth between obviously the new communities, the different pros and cons, the politics. We're gonna talk about everything that you guys need to know about the Boise area. But I'd say that's the best overview of winter. So now we'll head to the next one. We'll go to number 2 in Boise, pros and cons. But before I do that, I wanna show you guys something. So for those of you who are new, and thanks for staying for this long in the video already, I do something where I hide Duck Norris. We call him Duck Norris. I hide him throughout the video, and if you find him and comment down below the timestamp that he is in the video, I will send you a Starbucks gift card. And for this one, I'm gonna make it a little fun. I'm gonna try and hide him in 3, 4, maybe even 5 spots in the video to give you guys extra chances. So keep an eye out for him, but let's jump to number 2. Now, going from winter to the 4 seasons of Boise, which can be a pro or a con. We've already talked a little bit about winter, but let's go into the 4 seasons and what makes it amazing in Boise, and then we'll start getting into more of the hard-hitting, kind of issues, politics, real estate, the different things that taxes, insurance, that affect you more on a, I guess, numbers basis. But the seasons, obviously right now, we're in the end of March, going into April. It's 65 degrees out today. It's hot. Filming this video today, it's been a little sweaty and warm. I should have not wore jeans, but we get all 4 seasons. We get winter, which we just talked about. We get spring, which we're going into right now, where it's a little bit wetter than maybe fall, but you still get the same 65 to 85 degree temperatures with, kind of brisk mornings. In the fall, that's my personal favorite, where we don't have the thunderstorms and the wind. The wind can get a little bit bad in the spring, although it's nothing like Wyoming or a windy place. But in the fall, we don't have the wind, we don't have the thunderstorms, we don't have the rain, but we get the 75 to 85 degree weather. And in the fall, that can usually it goes into the end of October. Sometimes fall gets cut short. Winter comes in early, about mid to early October, but I'd say for the most part, you can say October 15th, from August 15th to October 15th, you're gonna have 75 to 85 degree weather with blue skies, similar to how it is today. And in the spring, today's a beautiful day, but tomorrow we actually have tornado watch, which that's rare. We don't actually get tornadoes, and that's more for some of the outskirts of Boise, but we will get some small hail, some 50-mile-an-hour winds with some thunder and lightning. So you get that in the spring versus the fall, you don't get it. But part of the 4 seasons that is nice is it blends together. Sometimes you appreciate the spring and the fall more with the winter. The downside to the 4 seasons, obviously we talked about winter. The other con of Boise is going to be the summertime, where I think Boise is a lot hotter than people would probably realize. So we get 100-degree weather every single year. It's just a matter of how long. I'd say on average, we get about 5 days a year of 100-degree weather. Sometimes we can get 2 weeks. There's been a few years where almost all of July was 95 to 110, which for some people is not expected. You don't realize that in the summertime you're gonna have, sometimes it's almost worse than the wintertime because you can't really cool off. The good news is Boise's very dry. So it's not the same heat as down south. Those of you guys in Texas or Florida, it's not as wet and sticky. It's a dry heat, which helps. The downside to the dry heat is a lot of people who move here that have issues with that. They can get dry eyes, dry skin, and then the spring and the fall can bring allergies, kind of with that dryness too. The dust and the pollen with the wind can kind of combine it. So those would be some of the pros and cons of each season. The other thing is in the summertime, not only do you get the heat, but you can get flies or bugs that some people aren't used to living in Southern California. So we do have mosquitoes here in the summertime. Usually it's not bad. They do a pretty good job of spraying. But if you do look at houses that might be close to the Boise River, or you might have a pond or waterfront property, it can be a little bit worse. And then in August, for whatever reason, we do get a lot of flies. But again, it's a lot drier. I've talked to a lot of people who move here from Texas, and they don't mind it because it's obviously not humid, so it makes it a little bit more tolerable. Now we're going to head to some of the more hard-hitting topics. This next one is Boise is a small town. The next one I have on the list is the size of Boise. So Boise is a metro area. It is bigger, but it's a lot smaller than a lot of the other metro areas in the country, especially on the West Coast. The entire Treasure Valley, which is what we call Boise and all of its suburbs, has a population right around 750 to 820,000. Obviously that's growing, but if you look at that, that includes Boise, all of its suburbs, Meridian, which has over 200,000 people in it, or around 200,000. That includes Nampa, which is 100,000 plus, Kuna, Star, Middleton, and it's a very large area, the entire valley. And all of that is 750 to 800,000, give or take, depending on how much we've grown in the last couple of years. If you compare that to a place like Seattle or Portland or San Francisco or LA or even Dallas and Houston, just the cities alone are 750,000 to 1.2 million as far as the population goes. So just the cities in those metro areas are the same size or larger than all of the Boise area. And what that means is that we get a lot of the things that come with being, a medium-sized metropolitan area, the city of Boise only having a little over 250,000 people in the city of Boise, but we still get the small town feel, which is where some of these things that we're going to talk about later, politics and more of the details of real estate and that small town feel, things like that come into play. But I think it's a huge pro that Boise is still a small town, so the traffic's not as bad. You still get people that like other people. That's one of the number one comments I hear about Boise, is just how awesome the people are here. Every time somebody comes to visit for the first time, they always ask me, are people always this nice? And the answer is yes. People in Boise are absolutely awesome, and part of that I think comes with the size of Boise. The other thing is it being a smaller populated area, the traffic, but it also means that you can get from place to place pretty quick when you compare it to those of you who might be coming from LA, San Francisco, Portland, Dallas, these bigger metro areas. You can get from one side of the valley to the other, Caldwell to Boise, in 45 minutes, versus other metro areas, it might be 2-3 hours to get from one suburb into the city. I know Houston as an example, it's a very far drive just to get from suburb to suburb. I always tell people a general rule of thumb here is it's pretty much 15 minutes to everything in Boise. So if you need to go somewhere, it's pretty much 15 minutes away. Grocery store, movie theater, restaurants, your friend's house. A lot of times you're doing 15-minute increments, which for some people that might seem like a lot, but for most of you moving to Boise, it's gonna be a smaller metro area. But it's not so small that we don't have all of the amenities. We still get, we have a hockey team, we have concerts, we have large people coming to Boise. We've had Luke Combs, we've had Garth Brooks, we just had Kane Brown come into town. We have large comedians. I'm excited to see Nate Bargatze come here in the fall. My wife surprised me with that for Christmas. So things like that we still get in Boise. The downside is obviously our airport is smaller, which we'll talk about in more detail later. We don't get the major sports teams. So we have a hockey team, we have BSU for football and basketball there. We're getting a professional soccer team, which is something new to Boise, so something to know about in 2025, but we don't have NFL, NBA, and those big things that other cities have. LA obviously has multiple sports teams. Portland has one, Seattle has multiple. So you can see that there are pros and cons, but the big pro to being a small town is, I think, the traffic and those more conservative, small town, kind people. So you still get the small town feel, especially in the suburbs where a community like Star, you're only at 20,000 people. Kuna, you're at 40,000. Middleton, you're under 20,000. So you're 15 to 30 minutes into downtown, but you still get that small town feel. Now we're gonna go through the growth of Boise, and I'm gonna be walking through this house, which is one of my favorite builders. But before that, I know I mentioned I try and provide valuable information. And if you guys reach out to me, shoot me a text, shoot me a call, I am the one you get. It's my personal phone number up on the screen. It's my personal email. You guys are gonna talk to me. I'm an active agent, so I'm the one that's helping you. I'm the one that's gonna be negotiating with you. I'm the one that's gonna be doing the strategy, showing you the houses, figuring out what's best for you if you do decide to move to Boise and we see that it's actually the best option for you. So know that I don't want to be a transactional real estate agent. I actually want to get to know you guys, have a community, build friendships if you guys want that, and be there for life, and not just buying the house, but also helping with school, with taxes, with anything that I can help with. So I want you guys to know that, and hopefully hear from you guys, and look forward to meeting you. I love helping and hearing the stories of you guys moving here. I love working with all of you guys who are moving to Boise for a better life, and most of you guys are absolutely amazing people. And so look forward to meeting you guys. But we'll go into the growth of Boise. Obviously, Boise has grown a lot in the last 10 years. It's slowed down a little bit in the last 2 years, but in 2025, things are looking a lot different. And obviously, while I'm talking about these things, you guys can see the house behind me, which is built by Alturas, and maybe I'll give details as we go through it. But part of the growth in Boise, the last 2 years, and I said it's slowed down quite a bit. This year is a lot different. The election is over. People are ready to move. They have confidence in the market again. And it's not just me saying that, it's this house that we're in, this community that we're in right now that we've been walking through. They sold 10 houses in a day. They literally are selling houses faster than they can build them. And so prices have already started to go up. Every time I'm out in this community, there's people looking at houses. One of the homes in here ends up selling that weekend. And it's not just this community, it's almost every single community that I go in. The community I live in, 10, 15 different communities that I go through, they've either bumped prices up, they're bumping prices up, they've bumped prices up twice already. They're having a lot more activity. They're going from 50 calls to 150 calls a week or a day. They're going from selling 4 houses in a month to 17 houses in a month. So the data's there, we're seeing it happen. More and more people like you guys are moving here. With that means 2025 looks like it's gonna grow a little bit more than it has the last couple of years. And so with some of this growth has come a lot of traffic is the big one. So we do have more traffic, especially this community I'm in right now is Meridian. Where we're at in Meridian, it has a lot more traffic. Every time I drive through here, I absolutely can't stand it. Although I'm a little bit more of a small town person. Obviously I've lived here my whole life, so I don't like the traffic as much as maybe some of you coming from California, Seattle, Houston, things like that. You might be used to the traffic a little bit more, but it has gotten a lot worse, and some suburbs are worse than others. So what that means is that for those of the growth is going to increase that traffic, but it also means that some of these smaller suburbs, like maybe Star, Middleton, and Kuna, who have historically had less traffic, less busyness, means that this more growth that we're going to be getting in 2025 is going to impact them differently. It also means that if you don't want the traffic, I have a lot of people who visit Meridian and they thought it was on their list, but then they drive through here during the day and they absolutely can't stand it. So they end up deciding to go with Kuna and Star. But what it means is for those of you who want the smaller town feel, might mean you want to look at the suburbs that not only aren't as busy right now, but in the future are gonna remain that way. And so one of those things that I look at is what we've seen over the last few years is Star and Kuna and Middleton. Middleton and Kuna have had time to prepare for all of this growth. And what that means is that they had the infrastructure already in place for what we're seeing this year. And so I live in Kuna. It's not nearly as busy, even though there's twice the population of Star. There is not nearly as much traffic. It's not as crowded. It doesn't feel as crammed because A, you have more space, but B, they had to plan for it better. Versus Star, it's not horrible. It's not like Meridian, but it's a smaller area. There's only about a 3 square mile area where all of the housing is, and the roads aren't very wide. There's construction, and so it can feel more crammed. So that is an issue with Boise, and in 2025, it's looking like it's going to continue to grow faster and get worse. And I just mentioned construction. Part of that growth means construction, which makes the traffic worse, but it also means new things. So as an example, we're getting a new highway from Emmett through Star that connects to the interstate. So for people in Star and Eagle and Middleton, there's gonna be a quicker route to get to the interstate I-84 so that you can get to the airport, you can get to downtown Boise, you can even get to Shields and the 10-mile district, which we're gonna get. So lots of good things that come with the growth, including new highways, but also lots of new things. I just mentioned Shields, which we just got. That's part of the growth. The 10-mile district, which is coming soon. It's going through some shifts, but in the next few years, we'll have a place like that, which for those of you who don't know, the Village in Meridian off Eagle Road, which you guys are seeing right now, has a ton of restaurants. There's a huge park there. It's a really popular place for people to go for dinner and events. The 10-mile district, the district at 10 Mile, I'm sorry, will be 4 times the size of the Village. So we're getting things like that. We're getting places like Valnova, which for those of you who haven't seen the Valnova video, it's going to be a 6,000 acre community. I call it a new suburb because they're gonna build 7,000 housing units, which basically means there'll be 10,000 people living in Valnova, which is bigger than Middleton or Star was just a few years ago. So that's why I call it a new suburb. Things like that are coming to Boise, new restaurants, new things to do. We just got Topgolf a few years ago. So the growth does have its positives. It also brings cool communities like Valnova. So lots of things to think about with growth. And the big thing to know for 2025 is just the growth in general with these new communities, more people moving here, which we've obviously are going to talk about more as far as specifics on real estate and pricing and suburbs. So hopefully you guys got to see this house. For those of you who were watching the house, and a reminder to keep an eye out for Duck Norris. For those of you who are new, I've now hidden him in 2 places in the video, so keep an eye out for him. But I will send you guys a Starbucks gift card if you've commented below. And for those of you who are watching on the television, which I know a lot of you guys do, just shoot me a text. I know sometimes it's not easy to comment on the TV, so shoot me a text with the timestamp. Happy to send you guys that Starbucks gift card. But for those of you who are watching this house kind of in the background, this is built by Alturas. We're out here in Quartet. This home recently sold, but I wanted to show you guys it because it's one of my favorite plans. It's one of my favorite builders out here that have really good quality, and this is just a cool home. This house was sold for $730,000, and we're in here in Meridian, one of the best parts of Meridian, North Meridian. So I wanted you guys to at least see kind of what the finishes look like. We'll just pan really quick. One thing I love about this floor plan is this beautiful vaulted ceiling with the windows. Classic Alturas kitchen. Master was there, 2 bedrooms up front, has a 3-car garage, and then it has a full bonus room upstairs. But just wanted to give you guys a quick idea of what that house looked like. Let's jump to the next section. Now the next one is housing costs and everything related to it. So this is insurance, taxes, your utilities, but it also includes the housing prices as a whole. So I'm of course gonna go over insurance and taxes. You guys always have a lot of questions on those and they're good to know about the pros of Boise, but I'm also gonna jump on the computer here and show you guys homes, the house prices, and show you what maybe a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom would look like. New construction, starter builders, mid-luxury builders is what I call some of the nicer houses, resale versus new construction, just to give you guys a rough idea of housing prices in Boise and whether it's a pro or a con for you, because a lot of things have changed, and especially this year as it's gotten busier, things are going up, and so there's things to talk about. But the first one is taxes and insurance and utilities. So overall, this is just going to be a huge pro of living in Boise. As an example, my house currently in Kuna, which does have some of the lower tax rates at about 0.6%, is about $1,600 a year on a $400,000 house. In Star, that's going to be the only one that's going to beat out Kuna, which is about 0.5%. The rest of the valley, a general rule of thumb is just plan on 1%. It depends on the levies, which are just, funding for the schools. So certain parts of the valley can be a little bit higher or lower. Boise, the city of Boise, especially around downtown, having some of the highest tax rates. And then Canyon County, which is Nampa, Caldwell, Middleton, those are gonna have a little bit higher tax rate just from a county perspective. So generally 0.6 to 1.2% tax rate. one thing that a lot of you guys might not know is in Idaho, you get a homeowner's tax exemption. So if you live in your house as a primary residence, you get a $125,000 deduction from the assessed value of your house, which in most cases is lower than what you purchased it for. So if you have a $500,000 house that you buy, usually the assessed value is a little bit more. Then you can subtract $125,000 from that, which brings you down into the 375-ish thousand range, quick math. Your tax rate is based on that. So instead of paying 1% on 500,000, you're paying 1% on 375,000 if you live in that residence, which is a lot lower than most of the other places that people are coming from, especially with that homeowner's exemption. And I've done a comparison before. I don't remember the exact details, but sometimes when people are looking at Texas, they look at the home price in Texas versus Boise, and then they just compare them apples to apples. But what they don't take into account is the taxes and the insurance. And so last time I did this analysis, it was around a $60,000 purchasing price difference, meaning you could buy a home here versus Texas, and in Boise, you could spend $60,000 more on the purchase price of a home and still be spending the exact same amount monthly than you were in certain parts of Texas. Obviously, there's a lot of variables there, but it gives you a rough idea of don't just look at the purchase price, but look at all of the things included, which insurance is another one of those big factors. Here on my personal house, happy to share that, we paid $520 for the entire year. Now that's a new construction home. It's a little bit lower end home, but that just shows you how much more affordable it is. I would say on average, you're right around $1,000 to $2,000, depending on obviously lots of variables. But it's gonna, most cases, most people that are moving here, most people that I talk to, it's a significant decrease in insurance when you get to Boise. And then you tack on utilities, which I'd say is a lower part of the overall housing cost, but Idaho does have some of the lowest utility costs in the entire country. As an example, in my house again, we can do electric, which was $100 this month, gas, water, sewer, and trash this month were $180. So this is where that's $280 for the month on all of our utilities. On average, it's gonna be around $300 to $500 a month for all of your utilities. That includes your trash, your sewer, your irrigation, which we have to water your grass, your front lawn, your back lawn, so you don't have to pay for that. Usually it's just included in living in your community. And so all of that combined, $300 to $500, obviously the variables, but as a whole, it's a lot lower than California, Washington, Oregon, Texas. And so when you wrap all of that up, it gives you a lot more purchasing power. Instead of just looking at the purchase price, look at your monthly cost when it comes to housing prices. Now, big pros there, in my opinion, lots of things that you're saving money on, but let's give you guys an idea of kind of what the housing looks like. I'll go through some examples that we see a lot. So I'll go to communities that a lot of people focus in on, a lot of style of homes, size of homes, to give you guys an idea of some of these comparisons in Boise. And then we're also gonna talk about some of the changes that we're seeing in 2025, what to expect. That way you guys have a really good understanding of all of the real estate housing prices related to the Boise area. Okay, now I have the computer pulled up. I'm gonna first just give those of you who are new here an update on kind of the areas and general pricing. Then I'm gonna go through some new construction, give you guys an idea of what price points under 500,000 and then over 500,000. Then we're gonna look at the difference really quickly on a resale home versus a new construction home in Boise, because I think it's gonna surprise a lot of you guys. And then at the end, I'm gonna go over just general pricing and see where we're going in 2025, because there's some big changes and some things already happening in Boise. So first, Boise's obviously right here. Then you have Eagle, Star, Middleton up north, Meridian right here in the center. You have Kuhn over here, and then Nampa and Caldwell are here. This is all of 500,000 new construction. As you guys can see, there's this line right here, and you can see all of these listings over here versus over here. That's a very general price difference. Is over here's more new construction, it's more affordable, nicer houses. Over here, much more expensive, nothing under 500,000 that's new construction. Going a little bit more detail on home prices, your most expensive areas are going to be Eagle right here, Boise, and especially southeast Boise and around downtown. Then after that, Star and Meridian are going to be your second most expensive. Your most affordable is going to be Middleton, Caldwell, and Nampa. And then Kuna is a good middle ground. It's a little bit cheaper than Meridian and Star, but it's still more expensive than Nampa and Caldwell. So a little bit of an overview there on pricing. Now I want to show you guys just a few houses to give you guys an idea, eyes on them. Here's a new construction Hayden home in Kuna, 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom, 1,600 square feet right there, 2-story. And Hayden Homes is one of my favorite starter builders. I actually live in a Hayden home. I actually live in this neighborhood. But you guys, give you an idea of what a $440,000 house, 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom would look like in Kuna, brand new. As I said, we're going to go over some of the resale stuff to give you some comparisons here in a little bit, but give you an idea. And then in Kuna, want to show you guys what a CBH home would look like. So 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, a little bit smaller, but 415,000. And CBH is another one of the starter home builders that personally, it's not quite as nice as Hayden, not as high quality, and but they both are pretty good builders. So Hayden's my favorite as far as starter builders go, and that's in Kuna. Then I want to run you over here really quickly to Meridian to show you guys not only the price difference but the house difference. So very similar price point in Meridian with the CBH home, very similar size, but as what you'll notice is the style of home. So a lot of these are going to be much more alley load style homes. This one just happens to have, yeah, here we go. So you guys can see the garages are right here in the back. Front door is on the other side. So a little bit different style. You're not going to have your typical single family home with, you know, backyard. And then a little bit farther up into Meridian, in the northern part of Meridian, which is a really good area, I'll show you very similar size, but 490,000. So it's about 20,000 more in the Meridian area. And this is not the best area of Meridian. I mean, it's a really good area right here, but out here, you're really close to Nampa. The border's actually right here. So Nampa's over here, Meridian's over here. And then I want to show you the last new construction under 500,000 to show you the big price difference once you get out to Caldwell and Nampa. So CBH home, 450,000, 1,800 square feet, 3-car garage. Another CBH, 414,000, 1,800 square feet. And if you remember the one in Kuna, it was only 1,300 square feet and it was a 3-bedroom. And then let me pull up a Hayden home, 477,000. You get an RV garage. You get 1,800 square feet in one of my favorite Hayden floor plans, the Orchard, 3 bedrooms. They don't have the 4th bedroom in this one, but you get an RV garage. So big difference there with Hayden versus, or in Caldwell, Hayden versus all the way over in Kuna. So that gives you guys at least a couple eyes. Obviously there's videos where I go in a lot more detail. Now I want to show you guys just a couple homes and communities in particular that are super popular in the new construction 500 plus. And then I want to show you guys just a couple resale homes. And then we're going to talk about where home prices are going, especially 2025. And this will help you to understand that and see what's happening. So this is a community called Quartet. It's in North Meridian. And this is a very, very popular neighborhood. There's been a lot of homes sold in here. The one weekend that we had 2 clients in there, they sold 10 homes that day. This year, last year, they were selling like 1 home a month, 2 homes a month. And then in January, they were selling 10 homes in a day. So, and even as you can see, there's only 3, 5, 7 homes, new construction available in here. So James Clyde, this house is actually really amazing. They're a really good builder. 800,000 in Meridian, 3 bedroom, 3 bathroom, 2,500 square feet, so a little bit bigger. But give you guys an idea of what North Meridian looks like. This community is a really popular one. and then give you somewhat of an idea of over here in South Meridian. So we're a little bit closer to Boise, a little bit closer to the interstate, but we're out here towards Kuna. Just try and show you guys a James Clyde home in here as well. So very similar home right here, but a little bit bigger square footage for $880,000. So a little bit more expensive, but this area in general is a little bit more affordable than that North Meridian area, at least for now, which we're going to talk about at the end of this video when I go over my personal favorites, the best places to look at, the best places to live in Boise, and the pros and cons of that, especially for 2025. Now, quickly, resale. Show you guys right here. So $490 for a not very old new resale home, but 1,600 square feet, $490,000. And then you can see a brand new CBH, 1,800 square feet, $490,000. Now, this resale is a Toll Brothers, so it has a little bit nicer finishes. Obviously, you guys can see this kitchen right here. It does have nicer finishes. But even if you go from a used CBH right here, so 1,700 square feet, 4-bedroom, $460,000. And then if you go over here, $480,000, 1,700 square feet, 3-car garage, 3 beds, $480,000. Not a huge difference. And on these new construction homes, they're offering $20,000 on incentives. So the whole reason I wanted to pull that up really quick is to show you that a lot of people think new construction moving here is going to be more expensive, and they think, oh, I need to buy resale. A lot of what we're finding with clients and people moving here is that it is almost more affordable or the same price to buy a brand new home that's a lot nicer, a lot newer. You get the incentives, and sometimes we're finding that it's actually cheaper on a monthly basis because you can use these incentives to buy down the interest rate. But wanted to give you guys a quick overview. And now I talked a little bit about Quartet, that popular community right here that sold 10 homes in a week, and that is the trend throughout 2025 already, and we're only in the first 4 months of the year. And so Quartet, Tresidio has gone from 50 calls to 150 calls. Toll Brothers, there's communities that last year they were only selling 4 homes a month, now they're selling 17, and there's multiple Toll Brother communities that's the case. A lot of these builders are either have already increase prices, or we've been talking with them and they are about to increase prices significantly. I know in Quartet they've already done it and they're going to do it more. Hayden Homes in a lot of their communities already increased their prices $6,000, which doesn't sound like a lot, but on a $400,000 home, that's 1.5% increase this year already. And if you just look at the home values across the board from this time this year to last year, we're already above what we were last year. So we're already having price increases, and we had a down year the last 2 years really. So is what we're seeing is a lot of uptick in 2025. We're seeing a huge increase in people moving here and people ready to buy for 2 main reasons. The election's over, that's the biggest one. People are confident in the market. They feel like, okay, it's done. We have our president, we can move forward. And this is data throughout history. 10 of the last 12 elections, the same thing has happened. And number 2 is people realize that interest rates aren't going down to 4%. So they're okay. It's going to be 7, it's going to be 6%. There's no sense in waiting any longer, and they're making the moves. A big difference and a key indicator that we're noticing is that people are looking at houses and then they're buying the house right away. They're pulling the trigger. Versus the last 2 years, people would look at houses, they'd think about it, they'd wait, they'd look at another house. They weren't as ready. We're seeing it across the board. Everybody we talk to, people are ready to go, and we've seen it in not only the prices, but just the activity in general. And it's not just new construction, it's resale too. So wanted to talk about that, housing prices, give you guys a good idea, because this is a very important part and a very big thing with the pros and cons of Boise, especially when you compare not just the house price, purchase price, but remember insurance, taxes, all of that combined. So wanted to give you guys an overview there. Let's head to the next topic. Okay, we're back on the river. Now we're going to talk about politics in Boise. So this is a big one that a lot of you guys, it's a big reason you're moving here. And there's quite a few things to talk about, but in general, I'd say there's, a few big main ones. One of those being healthcare, one of those being guns, one of those being, the school system in general, and then just generalized politics and what the people are like here. So kind of the cultural side of things. I'll start it off with, I am not a political expert. I am not somebody who is following the legislator, following the laws. I keep up to date on the big things and the things that people like you guys want to know. One of those being, as an example, is Idaho recently passed a law where if in the school systems, teachers will refer to their kids by their gender given at birth. So no pronouns in schools. That was a law that was recently passed. Things like that are things that I'm keeping up to date on. I'm not keeping up on to the daily, day-to-day legislative that I know some of you guys do. With that, I'd say there's some other major things as far as the suburbs go. So politically, Boise is obviously going to be a lot more on the conservative side. You're going to have the suburbs that are going to be more conservative than the city of Boise. So pretty much the closer you get to downtown Boise, the more liberal it is going to become. Boise has a liberal mayor. There are more liberal things going on in the Boise city itself, but that has been there since really the 70s or 80s. So the university, so Boise State University, has been obviously in Boise for a long time. And with that, there has come a lot of liberal leanings or beliefs, and they have been there for a long time. There's been a LGBTQ parade in Boise for decades now, so it's nothing new. And that has kind of converted to the rest of Idaho. Part of that too is there has been growth with liberal beliefs and politics as the city has grown. Now, where I think a lot of people can get worried is a lot of you guys who are moving here, 64% of you roughly, oftentimes more for those of you who aren't a registered Republican, but a lot of you guys are moving here because you want to get away from that. You're moving from California, Seattle, and you want to live in a conservative, family-friendly, faith-filled community. Now, people can hear the thing about the city of Boise and get a little bit worried, and I always say it's not something that I would necessarily worry about. I don't think Boise is going to become the next Portland or Seattle, or even like in Austin, Texas, for those of you who might be watching down south and thinking about moving up north because you weren't given what you thought you were promised. But it is happening, something to be aware of. There is always a small possibility that that does happen, but the suburbs of Boise are the bulk of the population here. Meridian being around 250,000 people, and then all the other suburbs almost matching that. So there's a lot of conservative upbringing. Now, Meridian, a general rule of thumb is the smaller the suburb, the more conservative it is out here. So Meridian being the biggest suburb, it's gonna be the least conservative, a little bit more moderate, but it is still a very conservative place. Star, Kuna, Middleton, those are gonna be very conservative. And what I guess I mean by conservative is people love their guns here. People wanted these pronouns out of schools. They don't want their kids being raised in that environment. People want their guns. They want the right to protect themselves. We want the business side of things, the financial side of things to be the same. We want the homeless problem to be solved. And you get that throughout. I guess the part that I am more of an expert on and have more experience with is the family faith-filled section of it. I personally live in Kuna. I love it out in Kuna. There is a ton of people just in my subdivision alone that share the Catholic Christian faith with me. There's a lot of families. Sometimes when I'm working in the office, I will see 6, 7, sometimes even more families just walk by on a nightly walk with their family. And that's gonna be the case almost everywhere. In Kuna, in Star, even in Meridian. And when I stop and talk to them, we often have the same beliefs. They go to church, they believe in God, they have those conservative upbringings. Oftentimes guns will come into the conversation. So it's definitely something that's going on in these suburbs and something that you guys wanna know about. Star is gonna be the same way. and it is only growing. A lot of people that are moving here, I mentioned it at the beginning, 64% of you guys are conservative, literally registered, and that doesn't include the people of you who are not registered, who also have that same belief. So it's only getting more and more conservative based on the data, and I think based on what we're seeing. Part of what we see with the liberal growth in Boise, a lot of that has to do with the just overall population growth and kind of a separation where people who are liberal oftentimes want to live in Boise or push themselves to Boise because they want to be around people that are like-minded. No different than, I guess, if you're moving to Boise and you want that conservative community, you're oftentimes going to choose Kuna, Star, Middleton to live because you want to be around like-minded people. So that's kind of a broad overview of what you guys can expect. 2025, there hasn't been many things changing other than that, but gives you a good overview. So now let's head to the next section, and of course stay for the end where I'm going to go over what I personally think are some of the best areas utilizing all of these pros and cons that we have been talking about. But let's head to the next topic. Now onto the food in Boise. This is a hotter topic than I ever thought it was. About 6 months ago, I did a video where I interviewed and surveyed everybody I knew that was either moving here, moved here, or I was just friends with from, childhood. And one of the number one things was the lack of food options in the Boise area, which was a big surprise to me, but I'm a big breakfast guy. So there's lots of good breakfast places, burger places in Boise. So I've always been happy. But where I found out through the survey was there's a lack of food options when it comes to especially barbecue, the Asian food categories. So your Chinese, your Thai foods, things like that. A lot of my friends or people who have moved here who are foodies said that Boise does not have those as an option. And so a con of Boise is you don't get quite as much of the cultural food options as especially those of you who are from LA or San Francisco or Seattle, or of course the barbecue for those of you who are in Texas. We don't have quite as much of that in Boise. We do have a variety, but I'd say most of like our Chinese food restaurants are more of what you might see at like a Chinese buffet. They're very, white, or not white, they're very basic. So that is the part of the food things. The good side of food here is, I told you I'm a breakfast guy. Some of the best breakfast food is in Boise. Sunrise Cafe is a classic. As a kid in kindergarten, I used to go there every single day and get their cinnamon roll. The waitress, who's now the owner, she knew us by name. We sat at the same table. We have Mojo's, which is a really good one. We have Bacon downtown. There's a number of different breakfast food restaurants here in the valley, the Griddle, that are absolutely amazing. We also have really good burger places, like I said, which makes sense because the fries always go with the burger. And for those of you who, of course, Idaho's just the potato state, even though there's hardly any potatoes you see here when you actually move here. But we have Boise Fry Company. Wild Child's my personal favorite. We recently got an In-N-Out, which then turned into, now we're gonna have 4 In-N-Outs. So plenty of options when it comes to the food one, but definitely wanted to touch on the con of the food side of things here in Boise. And that will also kind of correlate to some of the entertainment side of things. They all kind of go into one group as far as Boise being a small city. But the next one is the airport and the isolation, which the airport, there's some big pros to it and some big cons. We'll talk about that. But the isolation one, I think, is a little bit more nuanced. Boise is obviously a bigger city, as you guys have seen, but we're far away from all of the major cities. Salt Lake is about 3.5 hours away. That would be one of the closest major metropolitan areas. Everything on the West Coast is at least a 5-hour drive. So Portland, really that's it. Seattle is gonna be about 7.5, 8. And then everything in California is obviously gonna be farther than that. But with that, we have a lot of isolation. We're not close like you guys who are in maybe California are used to, where San Francisco, San Jose, LA, San Diego, everybody's all kind of close and within range of each other. Same with Texas, Dallas, Austin, Houston, everything is at least within driving distance of family and friends and things like that. And so Boise, when you live and move to Boise, it's just Boise. Everything else is far away, and so you do have to fly, which means you have to utilize the airport. And the pros of the airport in Boise is it's very small, low security, it's quick. You can get there 45 minutes beforehand and you're good. You don't have to worry about like Denver or LAX, where you have to get there 2 hours early, and it's an absolute nightmare. When you land in Boise, you just walk right out. Usually your bags are already ready for you by the time you get to the bag pickup, and it's a huge benefit. A lot of people love the Boise airport for how small it is. And so the cons really would be just the flight options and our isolation and how far we are from some of the other metro areas. With that being said, Boise is obviously growing a lot, and so they're adding more and more one-way flights or direct flights. So every year it seems like we add more and more metro areas, but we still of course have the Seattle, the LA, the San Francisco, the Vegas, the Denver, even Dallas. We have all of those direct flights, so we have all of the major ones. It'd be for more of you guys who want to travel, to Florida, or you want to travel to some of the lesser known airports in California that it could be an issue for. So there's some sort of lack of direct flights that Boise has, but love the airport. Not nearly as busy. I hate when I fly and I have to go through Denver or LA. It makes me miss the Boise airport. But let's head to the next topic. This next one is a obvious topic, being that I'm outside walking along the Boise River for this section, but it is the outdoors of Boise. It's a huge pro. It's a huge reason that a lot of people love the idea of Boise. Is you get the small town feel, you get the city life of Boise and all of the things we have to do, but you also get the outdoor environment that we provide. So right now, walking on the Boise River Greenbelt runs from here all the way down to the city of Boise. So there's, I think, 50 plus miles of just Greenbelt access. You have all of the hiking trails all over the foothills, especially out here in Eagle where I'm at right now, especially along the Boise foothills. So even if you don't want to live in Boise, it's only a 30, 20, 15-minute drive to get to the mountain biking trails, the hiking trails, and all of the things outdoors. We also have the ski resort, Bogus Basin, just 45 minutes away, so not very far at all. That's just up from Boise. We have Tamarack, which is up by McCall. We have Sun Valley, which also has ski resorts, which is about a 2-hour drive. So in the winter, you also have the same outdoor activities. Snowshoeing's really popular here. We just have a lot of things in the outdoor space. There's lots of events in the summertime. There's tons of outdoor concerts. There's tons of outdoor events. Pretty much all over the valley. You have them at the Village. You have them downtown Boise with the music festival. You have them a lot of places that you go. And so even if you aren't somebody who wants to go hiking or mountain biking, but you just like to be outside, as an example, you can just go to the concert, hang out outside, be along the green belts, or do what I'm doing right now. I'm literally just walking along these subdivisions with the houses that were in the background right along the Boise River. It's absolutely gorgeous. I'll give you guys a view right now. For those of you that missed, again, proposed to my wife over there. A lot of times you're taking photos out here. You'll see a lot of summer time people taking senior photos. Right now you can see a family out here hanging out. People will bring their beach chairs. They'll bring some beer, some barbecue. They'll hang out, swim in the river. I know as a kid on the Boise River, one of my favorite things to do was not only to fish, but there's crawdads, crawfish in the Boise River. So we'd go catch them and then have them for dinner. It's little things like that. When it comes to the suburbs, Eagle, Star, and Boise are gonna have your quickest access to all of the outdoor activities because you're right by the foothills, you're right by the Boise River, me being in Eagle right now. So those are gonna be the areas that you have a ton of outdoor activities really close by. When you get a little bit farther out, we still have the BLM land, we have the fishing, we have the hunting all over. So it comes with how close, what proximity do you want to be to all of those things that there are to do. With that, Kuna, Meridian, Nampa, some of those are going to be a little bit farther from the hiking trails, the biking trails, the foothills that I know a lot of you guys like. When it comes to the outdoor activities, I'd say those are the main ones, the Boise River. But Kuna, and you guys might have seen Indian Creek Ranch that I've done. We have a creek that runs through Kuna. You can still float the river there. So it's not like it's completely obsolete, but if you want the bulk of it, it's going to be moving towards Boise, Eagle, and Star. And then of course, all of the beautiful just things that Idaho has within 2 hours, 3 hours. We have Shoshone Falls, one of the biggest waterfalls in the country. That's a 2-hour drive. We have the Sawtooth Mountains. We have McCall, which is an hour and a half, 2 hours. Super popular place in the summer to rent a cabin, to go there for the 4th of July, to go to the river. In the wintertime, skiing. They have a winter festival with ice sculptures and events. One of my favorite things, which hopefully I can add some footage in here, but you can actually go see wild elk on a wagon on a ranch out there, so you can see them right up close. Things like this are the outdoor activities, you know, that we have close by. Yellowstone, for those of you who don't know, is only 3.5, 4.5 hours away from Boise. So you're super close to that. And as an example right now, so I know I've been saying I'm an Eagle, but this road right behind me is Eagle Road. It is the busiest road in all of Idaho. And I just got done walking off the Boise River and I felt completely isolated. You feel like you're just in nature, even though you're off one of the busiest roads. So not only do you get quick access with wherever you live, but you can be right next to some of the busiest streets and still feel like you're out in nature. And there's subdivisions right here on both sides. There's plenty of places to live where you can literally live on the river. And so lots of outdoor activities, lots of things going on, and it's only growing. We keep getting more and more. We've talked about neighborhoods like Valnova that are coming, that are in the foothills. We have Avamore, lots of outdoor oriented communities and events and things growing in Boise. So in 2025, it's just going to get better and better. Now, let's head to the desk and go over what I might think are the best places to live and look at in 2025 when we look at all of the things that we've talked about in this video. So let's head to the office. Now we're going to go over what I think, me personally, and what I'm seeing with people moving here are the top choices and the biggest upside for 2025, especially when moving to Boise, Idaho, when you just look at the suburbs and the housing in general. So I already gave you guys an overview of the suburbs, but I'm gonna kind of break this into two main categories. So my personal preference, I'm more of a small town person. I love the small town, family friendly, faith-filled, small town people. And so personally, I live in Kuna, and we're gonna talk more about that because it's not just my personal preference. We're gonna talk a lot about Star and Middleton and show you guys what is happening in 2025, some of the big changes. So there's that. Then there's those of you who really want to be closer to the city. You want the activities in Boise and Meridian and Eagle. And so you want to have things to do and be close to all of that. And so yes, Meridian and Boise are very popular places to choose, but I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on the communities and show you guys what to look at, including one community that kind of fits everybody. And it's honestly one of my #1 picks for places to look at in the Boise area in 2025. And there's a big reason why. And so we're going to look at that at the end. But first of all, I'm going to go through small towns. So obviously you have Middleton and Star up here. You have Kuna down here. Those are going to be your three main small town suburbs that people are looking at, especially as far as popularity goes. Now, if it's up to me, I would choose Kuna for a number of reasons. Number one, I love it out here. I live out here, so I know how it is. I've had family in Star, so I've been out there a ton. I obviously have clients out there. I spend a lot of time out there. But I love Kuna because the home prices are lower than Star, but they're going to go up faster than Star because we got Facebook out here that just finished up. We have talks of Microsoft. We have Micron, the $15 billion plant coming in here. We have Costco coming in right here. And so there's a lot of growth coming to CUNA, and Star is getting priced out. What I mean by that is the prices of land in Star have started to get to a point to where the lower end starter home builders can no longer afford to build the product that they build and make a profit. And what that means is Star is starting to turn into what Eagle is. And as you can see from this screen, I have $500,000 to $700,000 homes. And as you can see, there's almost nothing in Eagle. Now, for 2025, there's still going to be homes and there's still good potential for growth in Star. But a lot of the builders and a lot of movement is moving towards CUNA. And so investment side, love it. Now, the difference between Star and Middleton and CUNA is for those of you who really love the outdoors. And what I mean by the outdoors is you like the hiking trails, the foothills, the Boise River, because in Star, you have the Boise River, you have the foothills. And so those are the top picks for the small town area, but want you guys to know in 2025, what's kind of shifting, where people are starting to look, and it's looking like it's definitely gonna be CUNA. Although Star, for a lot of people moving here, is most of the time it's one of the top choices. But I've seen a shift recently where people visit, they go to Star and they end up not liking it and they end up looking in CUNA. And a lot of that has to do with the growth, has to do with the prices. And as you guys can see, this is a very small square to fit a lot of new people versus when you go to CUNA, you have all of this to build new houses and have the growth. So it's not as busy. Even though it's a lot more people, there's 40,000 here, there's 40,000 in Star. You have a lot more infrastructure, they plan for it better, there's a lot more room. Now, with Meridian and Boise and Eagle, some of the top communities, I guess, we've talked about Quartet. We took a little bit of a peek at this area, but this is called the SoMe district of Meridian. You're on the border of CUNA and Meridian over here, but you're technically in Meridian. You have Discovery Park right here, which is an amazing park. And then you have Sky Mesa, a community. You have Lavender Heights, a community. And then all of this right here is Pinnacle. And there's a ton of amazing builders in here. There's a ton of new construction. You have an amphitheater, you have Gem Prep, you have Discovery Park. You have some commercial spaces in here, and there's a lot of growth. The Costco is also planned to be somewhere in this region. We don't know exactly yet because they have a ton of commercial zones already for all three of these intersections. But what's nice about this SoMe district is, as you can see, you're 2 miles to the interstate, and then you're just another 2 miles to get to the village in Meridian and all of the things to do there. You have Shields in Meridian here. You have all the stuff in Meridian here. You have downtown Meridian there. So you're just a little bit closer than CUNA, and you're really close to the airport and downtown Boise. So that's definitely a top pick in Meridian. And then my number one community / area to focus on if you're thinking of moving here, especially with communities. And this has been a recent thing of mine that I've kind of learned more about this community. Had a client buying here. I've looked at houses. I've filmed it a couple times. And this community right here is called Inspirado. And I can pull up the community, but one of the big pluses is the location right here. You're close to Star, so you still kind of have a small town feel. You don't have a ton of stuff around you yet. But right here is Costco, Winco, Fred Meyer, all of the restaurants in North Meridian. And as you can see, you're just a 5-minute drive to all of the things in North Meridian. You have the Boise River, you have Eagle, you have the foothills. So you kind of get the best of both worlds with what we're talking about, because usually there's two categories. Small town people are people who want to be closer to a lot of the things to do. And with that, a big reason I see this is, as you guys can see, there is a $550,000 house in here, and this will be crazier here in a second, but very, very good deal. I have a video on this house if you guys want to see it. But when I reset the filters right here, 2.9 million, 2 million, 1.1, 1.4, and these are view lots. But what happened is the developer switched, and so they went from building $500,000 to $600,000 homes with $1 million homes on this to now going forward, they are going to mostly only have $800,000 homes other than a few of these lots left, which means this year in 2025, these $600,000, $550,000 homes are going to be a very good investment. And it's an amazing location, amazing area, and I absolutely love this community. And I'll actually pull it up because there's a big thing here that just people don't know yet. And I have some of the mock-ups of the locations. And so I've gotten to see what it's going to look at. And some of these are a little bit older, but as you guys can see, there's going to be a huge community center with a pool, pickleball courts. They're going to have outdoor fireplaces. This is a really big size pool. There's going to be an area to hang out. And then the entrance, this is a little bit out of date, but it's very similar. You guys can see this entrance. None of this has been implemented yet. And so if I zoom in on the location, it is going to be right here is going to be the big entrance. They're going to possibly put in an Albertsons Market Street right here. You're going to have that community center, and this is going to be a very big community over time, but right now it's a little bit overlooked, and there's a new builder in there that I absolutely love. So a lot to take in there, a lot to think about for Boise in 2025. There's a lot of pros and cons, but if you guys want to go in more detail on each of these suburbs, watch this video here where I go through every single suburb and I rank them from A to F. And forgive me, it's an older video, so back then I was a little bit more shy on camera, but picking your suburbs, the most important part of moving to Boise, so that video is very important. Thank you guys for watching. I hope to meet you soon.